What on earth is a K-shaped economic recovery? When will robots be in your home? And why is there a housing boom in Fargo, North Dakota? Dr. Keel from Sleep Summit, one of our most highly rated sessions, speaks on these topics. The FAM podcast starts right now. For the first time ever, top retailers can carry the luxury mattress line one of America's top sleep retailers has kept to themselves until now. Introducing Prana Sleep, crafted from 100% natural materials featuring luxury latex quilted directly into the top panel. It's a feel no competitor can match. Born from decades of retail experience, Prana Sleep delivers premium performance, customer loyalty, and unmatched sleep satisfaction. Your competition is going to hate selling against Prana Sleep because nothing compares. Apply now at pranasleep.com. Did you know that 86% of customers buy from the first business that responds? And if you text back very quickly, that number jumps to over 90%. That's why Podium's AI employee, Jerry, is a game changer. Jerry never sleeps, never takes a lunch break, and never puts in a 2-week notice. He's always on, responding in seconds, so you never lose a lead again. Turn missed calls into texts, capture more leads, and close more deals, all with Podium. Want to see how it works? Get a demo today at podium.com/FAM. Podium, because speed wins sales.
In the mattress world, a no at checkout means a lost sale. That's where American First Finance comes in. We help you say yes to more customers, even if their credit isn't perfect. With fast setup, tailored solutions, and support every step of the way, you're not just offering a way to pay. You're inviting them to Yesville, where more people get approved and customers can take home the mattress they need today. Visit AmericanFirstFinance.com to get started.
Welcome to the FAM podcast with Mark Kinsley. This is where the best in the bedding business get even better.
Hey fam, it's Mark Kinsley. If anybody came to Sleep Summit 2025, man, we had rave reviews for Dr. Keel. He was talking about the K-shaped recovery, cutting through the media noise to actually understand truly what's happening in changing economic environments. He talked about the housing boom that's happening in Fargo, North Dakota. And of course, we talked about tariffs and inflation and the Fed and what's true and what's not true. We even got into the student loan crisis and the housing market shifts that are underway. So, by popular request, we have some of the hot takes, some of the best moments from Dr. Keel's speech that went on at Sleep Summit 2025 here for you today to better understand what is noise, what is signal, what's actually happening in the economy, and where are things going. And by the way, something very important, who has all the money and who should you be focusing on? So without further ado, some of the best moments from Sleep Summit 2025 with world-acclaimed economist Dr. Keel.
We're in the middle of what's being referred to as a K recovery. Economists love to give letters to recessions. We have U's and V's and W's. This is a K. What it signals is that you've got 3 different, basically, levels of consumer. You've got those that are like the upper third, $100,000 a year in income or more. You've got the lower third, under $50,000, and you've got the middle third between 50 and 100. Those that are in the upper third are spending like they always did. They've noticed inflation, they don't care. They're still spending, particularly if they made their money off the markets, which many of them did, because they're sitting on some pretty decent supply of money. And when you look at boomers in particular, because a lot of the boomers are in that category, 65% of all the wealth in the United States is in the hands of boomers. We have it all, which kills me when I see people advertising to Gen Z. You know, it's like, I want to appeal to the Gen Z. Why? They don't have any money. Appeal to me. Appeal to me, you idiot. You know, I'm the one that has money to burn. So that group is still spending. One of the clients we have is a company that counsels car dealers. And I speak to car dealer groups all the time, and I was asking at one point, so is the inflation really affecting you? I mean, the average price of a car now is $46,000. And the guy said, yes and no. I cannot sell an inexpensive car for nothing. People that are looking at the inexpensive car are in the bottom third, and they're living paycheck to paycheck, and they can barely afford their bills. The people I'm selling to are in the upper third, because if I have an expensive car that hits the lot, that won't stay there more than a day. And he was talking about a guy that had come in and looked at a Beamer, cost 80 grand, didn't see him for several months, came back, and now it's 120 grand. And he says, "Are you still interested?" "Yeah, it's 120,000 now. I can read." He says, "Why do you think that would bother me? I'm rich, you idiot. Do you honestly think I'm so stupid that I don't realize that an inexpensive car can get me from point A to point B just like the Beamer can? Why am I buying a Beamer? I'm buying a Beamer because it's expensive. It's a status symbol. I have a 4-car garage. That car is never going to be in it. It's going to be parked on the driveway so my neighbor can look out the window and realize what a loser he is every day." And it's like, my car is better than your car. The fact that it's 120 grand now is a bonus, you nimwit. So that group is still spending, and that group is still driving retail hard. So if you're looking at, for example, the performance of Walmart, Walmart doesn't aim at the upper third. Walmart aims at the middle and lower third, and they're seeing some declines. Check out Nordstrom's. Nordstrom's is not, you bottom third, you don't even go in the store. You know better. We're only dealing with the upper third, and we're doing fine. The middle third is spending as long as their jobs are secure. And right now, they're thinking they're pretty secure. A couple things to be aware of about the tariff and inflation, and this is just kind of cutting through some of the haze. We expected a whole lot of inflation response at the beginning of the year because that's when the tariffs were kicking in and you heard all the predictions about rampant, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen for months. So we're like, what's going on? Why aren't we seeing an impact? And it comes down to the fact that business doesn't just sit there and accept what's going on around it without reacting. So the first thing that happened is that a lot of companies that were supplying the United States simply ate the tariff and said, "I don't want to lose market share, so I'm just going to eat it." And not to go into gory detail about my background, but I started out in the 1980s as a Soviet specialist. I was going to study the evil empire, become part of the agency, be a spook. I got a degree in Soviet studies. I lived in Leningrad for a year. I learned Russian. I was set. And then the idiots go out of business right in the middle of my PhD. Seriously, you nut jobs last 70 years and you die now. But beneath this placid exterior beats the heart of a cold warrior. I still do not trust the Russians or the Chinese as far as I can throw them. They are godless communists, and they always will be. But the point of it from an economic perspective is that China is a command economy. We are a market economy. We do not do anything unless there's money in it. You don't produce a product and then do nothing with it. China does all the time. China has 440 steel mills. They don't need 440 steel mills. They need the jobs provided by the 440 steel mills. So they'll produce steel, stack it up on the outside of the factory, and never attempt to sell it at all. They have ghost cities. I've been to these. They'll house 80,000 people, and there's nobody in them, not one soul. They're in the middle of nowhere, high-rises all over the place. It's like, why did you build these? Jobs. We have 1,400,000,000 people, bucko. Do you know what 1,400,000,000 unemployed people do? They overthrow the government. So we keep them busy. You'll notice the ghost cities are in the middle of nowhere. So all these people are working, and they're not in Beijing threatening to overthrow Xi. So they have a whole different approach. They can afford to do stuff and lose money for years, decades, forever. So we're competing with a country that plays by those rules, and obviously we don't. Another response from companies is they found different supply chains. They went somewhere else. They decided to buy from Mexico or Vietnam or India or who knows who else. Little by little, that kind of eroded because we started putting tariffs on them too. And then there's the age-old response, which is lower margin. People were just taking less in the way of profits. They were like, look, I do not want to lose market share. The hardest thing in the world is to get market share back. Once somebody has gone to a competitor, they're gone. They're not coming back. That competitor has to do something really, really stupid for them to come back to you. And so people do everything in their power to hang on to that market. The tariff inflation that we thought we would see in the first quarter, we started to see in the last month or so, because these tactics kind of like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep lowering my margin. I can't keep finding alternatives. I have to start passing on the costs. And this has affected the Fed. Might be good news for the consumer, except that it's the refinery cost that keeps driving up the price at the pump. Mostly what this does is make U.S. oil production impossible. The fracking operations cannot make money if it's not at least $60 a barrel. If it falls to 45, they shut down. And so do the banks that backed them. So this happened once before in a few years back. So we're now looking at a global oil glut, and you can tell just by the price that we're seeing at the pump. I mean, we were being told a year or two or three ago that it was going to be $5, $6, $7 a gallon. I left Kansas City and I passed one that was $2.30. And it's like, it hadn't been that low in years, and like nobody's even worrying about it. That's kind of why the electric car isn't going anywhere. I mean, that was the idea behind the EV. You can't afford gas, drive an EV. And these days, it's like, I have my own personal neighborhood gauge about oil prices. When my neighbor starts driving their Hummer again, I know the prices have fallen. And he's out almost every day. For a while, it was a planter. His wife was putting flower pots on it. And it was like, get them flowers off my Hummer, I can drive it again. And so she has been. So wages have not been going up as fast as inflation, but they're starting to a little bit, depending on how valuable your skills are. We still have like 9 million people looking for work, but they don't have the requisite skills. We look a lot at the labor market because we're short people, and we're trying to figure out where that is going to come from. It's not going to be a short or easy fix. We can't change the child labor laws, so we're just going to have to find people where we can. The hottest way to deal with labor shortage now is to lure people out of retirement. So I have a number of friends who thought they had retired. Number one, boomers hate retiring. We've never had lives anyway, so we don't know what to do in retirement. All we've ever done is work, so it's like, okay, I've been retired for 20 minutes. Oh, I have no idea what to do. I don't even like golf, so all of a sudden we're coming back to work going, thank God, and then it depends on what you do for a living. I mean, if you do it, as long as I'm not drooling all over myself, I can do this for years, but you don't want an 80-year-old roofer. That becomes a little complicating. So we still have disposable income to deal with, and that is probably the key for an industry like yours. Because to one degree, mattresses and bedding are necessities. We all need beds, but a good mattress and a good set of bedding is a luxury. And people start to think of it differently. And like I started at the beginning of this, always did take bedding seriously, but oh my God, did I take it seriously after back surgery. It's like, I don't know that I would have survived without a good bed. I really wouldn't have. And so you start to think through things a lot more selectively, and you start looking at disposable income, and you start thinking, this really is one of the most important purchases I will probably ever make. And when you look at some of the surveys of consumers, it's moving up, because for years, bedding was sort of behind appliances. So people would say, okay, I need to buy a good dishwasher, I need to buy a good washer and dryer, all that kind of stuff. Bedding is now coming in above that, where people are like, if I have an okay washer and dryer, I'll survive. If I have an okay dishwasher, that'll work. If I have an okay bed, I'm too old for that. It's just like, everything hurts. I want to be able to get up in the morning and not feel like this is the beginning of the worst day of my life. And, a bed is critical for keeping that attitude in check. It's not there yet, but it's getting close. That's what is going to be watched by the housing sector much, much more so than anything the Fed does. Construction materials basically still going up like everything else when inflation is being considered throughout. Residential, which is a lot more in your area, always it looks like an EKG. It just constantly goes up and down, and it's highly regional. Two things are happening right now that affect what's going on in the residential market. One, people are leaving high-cost, high-tax states for states that are low-cost, low-tax, and they're doing it very rapidly. So what you're starting to see is an exodus out of California, out of the West Coast in general, out of the Northeast, and they're coming to, surprise, the Midwest. The fastest growing city in the United States right now is Fargo, North Dakota. And people are like, you're kidding me. And it's like, nope, I'm not. And what it comes down to, there was a study done a few years back asking, what would you have to make to live a comfortable life in every state in the U.S.? And if you're living in California, you would need to make, as a single person, $200,000 a year just to live a comfortable life. To live that same life in North Dakota, $50,000 a year. A friend of mine just retired to Fargo, and people looked at him like he was insane. And he said, look, I'm 75 years old. I don't do beaches anymore. I like to watch movies, I like to swim, and I like to bowl. And somebody built a house up here with an indoor bowling alley, an indoor swimming pool, and an indoor theater, and it came with 2 snowmobiles, and I picked it up for $400,000 because it's North Dakota. So, yeah, I know there's going to be 87 feet of snow, and I know it's going to be 56 degrees below zero. I don't care. I'm going to bowl and swim and watch movies. And if you ever find yourself in Fargo, North Dakota in January, what they do with those snowmobiles, they have pop-up bars that show up out in the middle of nowhere, and you just take the snowmobile out there and you drink yourself silly. What's the worst that can happen? On the way home, you put it into a drift, and they find you next spring. It's just, it's not a big deal. So Fargo is growing, South Dakota is growing, Nebraska is growing, Arkansas is growing. A lot of states that were kind of off the beaten path, they're now not so off the beaten path. People are like, I don't need to live in San Diego. I don't need to live in Boston. It's too expensive. And that is driving a lot of residential. The other thing with residential is the transition from boomers. Boomers are moving into various forms of assisted living because we get to a point where it's like, I don't want to shovel snow, I don't want to mow, I don't want to do any of that nonsense. It's like the kids don't want my house, my grandkids don't want my house, I'm just going to dump it and move someplace that is more conducive. And, I don't know about your neighborhoods, but like every other TV ad is, we buy houses, we buy houses, we buy houses. That's because you've got a bunch of boomers who are like, just take it. I don't want to deal with this thing. I don't want to fix it up. It's old. I know. I don't care. I'm moving into Happy Acres. Do whatever you want with this thing. We're not seeing foreclosure activity. We're not seeing even the revolving loan activity. Those are still very low. A little bit of damage showing up in car loans. Most of it is credit cards. And most of it is credit cards from that bottom third. The bottom third of consumers had to use credit cards just to pay bills. The one we're keeping an eye on is student loans because the data was slow to release. When it finally came out, we realized, we have a student loan problem. But it's 3 tiers. The first group are people who went to a reputable school and got a good degree. They're fine. They don't like paying the loan back. They don't know what loan meant, so they were confused. But they can. They've got a good job. They've got money. Next tier went to a reputable school but majored in something stupid and came away with, well, I have a degree in English literature. Good for you. It's like, and you thought you were going to get a job with that. I don't know how many times I talk to groups and say, how many people are actually doing today what they majored in? One hand will come up. Everybody else, what did you major in? pottery, so those people are going to struggle because they don't have the great job. The ones that we're worried about went to a not reputable school and got a worthless degree. And California at one point was graduating over 100,000 people a year with degrees in cosmetology. They don't need 100,000 new cosmetologists every year. So most of them ended up seriously in debt and got nothing for it. So corporate investment was tracking down, is now starting to track back up again, not radically, but it's at least heading in the right direction. The big risk when it comes to housing is what to do with all that stock that the boomers are getting rid of. We're a little bit worried about where the new housing goes. Most of it is multifamily, and part of it is just reacting to where the new opportunities are. So people are moving from place to place, and the fact that you can do this virtually has really opened up markets. I mean, talked to the city manager in Fargo at one point saying, okay, you're one of the fastest growing cities in the country. Where is everybody working? And he said, everywhere. He said, we have internet here. We even have indoor plumbing. It's amazing. We're pretty modern up here. He says, we've figured out that over 60% of the people working in Fargo are working for somebody that's not even in the state of North Dakota. They're working for Chicago, for New York, or LA. They're just like, I can work anywhere as long as I have an internet connection. So I leave you with this last observation. The purpose of studying economics is not to require a set of ready-made solutions to economic problems, but to avoid being deceived by economists. We were talking before this gentleman over here taught statistics, and so did I. And we both loved the same book, How to Lie with Statistics. And it was a great little, written in the 1950s, and it would basically teach you every trick in the book when it came to stats. So if you wanted to fool people, you would know how, because you would have all of this ammunition. If you didn't want to be fooled, the book would at least help you understand when you were being lied to, because I guarantee you, you're being lied to almost on a daily basis. People will throw up some statistic. 90% of people think I'm wonderful. You asked 3 people, and they were all related to you. What you should be asking is, how come 3 people related to you and you didn't get 100%? So statistics are easily manipulated. So in summary, economic risks are still there. Automotive sector tends to be a little bit of a canary in the coal mine, and it's doing relatively well. New industrial projects are going to drive a lot of development around the world. Residential still struggling, but you're getting pockets of growth, and it's kind of a matter of cashing in on where those pockets come. 10 years ago, the only companies that were really seriously doing robotics were bigger ones. Now I work with like 10-person job shops that have robots. They have no choice. They can't find people to run the machines. They can't find qualified machinists, so they have a robot. And if you're looking for the next big thing, which I was skeptical of at first, by the end of this decade, 1 out of every 3 households in the U.S. will have a robot working in the home, cooking, cleaning, taking care of tasks, particularly taking care of old geezers like me. So I noticed this graphically when I was doing my back surgery. Absolutely incapacitated. I'm in the hospital. I cannot do anything. I am a complete lump. And at some point, I roll out of bed somehow, and I'm on the floor. And so the night nurse, charming woman, but she weighed like 70 pounds from Thailand. No way she's going to get me in the bed. So she calls a robot. And this robot clomps into my room, picks me up, sets me into bed, pulls the covers up over my shoulders, pats me on the head and says, good night. And it's like, can I keep it? You're letting me take the urinal home. Can I take this home too? It's like, and I'm astonished. And she says, oh yeah, every floor's got one of these now, because, that was the biggest source of injury for nurses, was trying to get a big lump like me back into bed. So it's coming. And so at some point, you'll realize that the Jetsons was not a cartoon, it was a documentary. So one of the things that's going to be driving a lot of activity, and once you get these projects rolling, housing follows right behind. There was a provision in the BBB that is really looked at by construction, because it said that if you start a project this year and you finish it by 2030, you get a complete depreciation on that project. But it has to be done by 2030, and it has to have been started this year. So you've got literally hundreds of projects starting all over the country, because these construction companies know that if they don't start it now, they won't finish it in time and they won't get the benefit. So this is taking place everywhere. Texas, New York, California, you name it. Everybody is seeing these projects.
Just golden nugget after golden nugget after golden nugget. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, because there's so much noise out there and it's sometimes hard to understand what's real and what's not real. And as always, go to thefam.com and be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. That's going to get you all the information you need to know, including the dates for Sleep Summit 2026, which is going to be October 6th through the 9th back in beautiful Bentonville, Arkansas. And hey, in the meantime, be sure to like and subscribe. Like I said, share it with a friend, share it with your colleagues, and let me know on LinkedIn how you are going to apply some of these insights from Dr. Chris Keel. And we'll see you back here every Monday for the FAM podcast.